Welcome back to Namaste React. This is episode number 5. Let's get hooked. And today we are going to learn another superpower of React. Okay, so right now, we developed our application, right? We were over here, we built a food ordering app. We were building a food ordering app, and we were able to list down all these restaurant cards on our web page, right? And what we did was we actually tried to use the live APIs, right? Live API data, right? I did not wanted to use a mock data or create a mock API or something. So I thought, okay, let me just teach you with the live real data. Okay. So what we did was we went to like Swiggy's website, and we find out that okay, in their API they are returning some data, and we also talked about config driven UI. Do you remember that? Yes. So this config driven UI is like the UI is driven by the config which is sent by backend, right? So we saw that how API was controlling our web page, right? That API was controlling our web page, this API, right? This data. So we used actual live data into our app, right? I did not wanted to show you basic mock data or something. I wanted to show you the live data, and it looks very clumsy, isn't it? But don't worry, we will do a lot more amazing things now on, right? But you would be thinking that Akshay, right? We did all that, I understood all that, but this was possible to do using normal HTML also, isn't it? Yes, we can do this using normal HTML also. And how did React made our life easy? Right? So till now it was just basic stuff. But in today's episode, we will see things. See, first of all, let me clarify one myth to you. You have come here to learn React, right? So, everything that React can do, you can do that using normal HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Everything React can do, you can do that using normal HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Then why React? Right? So, React, why do we then use React? Very important question to know. Everything that you can do with React, everything you can do with any frameworks out there. I don't want to name any framework. Any framework out there, whatever you can do the same thing using HTML, CSS, React. And at the end of the day, what is React? React is also using JavaScript behind the scenes, isn't it? Right? The beauty of using a framework or a library is that it makes your developer experience easy. It makes you write less code and do more on the web page. This is what the major job of a UI library or a framework is. So React gives you superpowers so that you can build these large scalable production ready performant application, right? React makes your coding experience very fast, and then also optimizes some things on web page so that things happen very fast. In this episode, we will see the real superpowers of React. Okay, we will start to see, and not in this episode, but in coming episodes, we will start to explore more superpowers of React. Got it? So today, this is Let's Get Hooked, and let's get started with the code. Let me give you a quick sneak peek, right, to what we are going to learn today. We are going to cover React hooks. A lot of people feel that, okay, oh my God, what is React hook? It is something I don't understand. It's something very complex. No, it is very easy to understand. Very, very easy. Just pay attention in today's episode, and I will show you how easy React hooks is. Right? So let's get started. We were over here, but before that, right, before moving on to React hooks, right, we will first of all clean our app, right? We created a lot of mess in our app last time, right? We created a lot of mess. When I say a lot of mess, we created this app.js file, right? And we wrote a lot of components, right? We had a header component, we had a restro card component, we had a body component, and the other stuff, right? And we wrote everything into a single file, right? We wrote everything into a single file. Okay. And our app.js file, see this. Oh my God. It is like almost 2000 lines, right? 1982 lines, right? So it's not a good practice to keep such large files in your app. Okay, so let me tell you what the best practice is. So basically, what we are going to do is, a best practice in the industry is to make separate files, for separate components. Okay, the best practice is to make separate files for separate components. Okay, so today we will like restructure our code a little, right? We won't write every whole app into our app.js. No, we will have multiple files, right? So we will break our app down into multiple files. First of all, let us talk about the folder structure. Okay, so right now we just have all the files on the root level of our project, right? We basically started everything from scratch, right? And we kept adding everything inside this Namaste React project. But now let us restructure our app a little. Okay, so generally, there is a very good convention in the industry. So all the main code in the React library, right, in a React project, we generally keep it in a SRC folder. You would know, right? If you are a developer, if you have worked on any project, there will definitely be a SRC file, SRC folder in your app, isn't it? Why this SRC folder? Even I don't know, man. Right? I mean, let me tell you honestly that every almost like 100% of the projects that I have worked on always have a SRC folder, and this is like a source code, right? Kind of like source code. So you can build your whole app without an SRC folder also, right? It's not required, but let's follow the convention which the industry follows, right? So we generally have SRC folder, and let's create this SRC folder. I don't know why we create it, but anyways, right? And everything, all the source code of our app, we will keep in this SRC folder. You know why they would keep it? Because it's clean, right? Everybody understands that in the SRC I would find all the source code files. Yep, I think so. I guess so. I don't know. If you know the answer, please ping me, right, on any social media. Anyways, so basically, let's keep our app.js file in our SRC folder, okay? And let us move this up. So I have kept my app.js file in my SRC folder. And from now on, whatever code I will do, I will try to do that code, right? I will try to put those files inside my SRC folder. Okay, so that's how I will do. Okay, I have put my app.js inside SRC folder. Let me save it. Oh, the build started failing. Why did the build start failing? Yes, because I have moved this file, right, app.js inside. So I might have to change it inside this index.html, right, here. So I have changed the path. I have kept it inside SRC folder. So what I'll do is I'll write like this, right, /src/app.js. Cool. So now if I go back, it works fine, right? Our application works fine. So now all the components that I will make inside my SRC folder. Let's try to clean our app.js file, right? It looks very ugly. First of all, let me get rid of this comment, right? We understand this right now, right? We have already seen the structure of our app, right? So we already know this. So let me get rid of this. Okay. Or let me just copy this. Like if I want to refer this, right, let me put this inside my readme file, right? That would be a great place to put it up, right? So we have our food ordering app, right? Food ordering app, and we named it at Namaste Food, right? Namaste Food. And over here, I have added this, right? I have added all of this code, right, in my readme file. Now let us clean this, right? So we have this header component. A best practice is to make a separate file for every component. Okay, make a separate file for every component. It's a normal practice. You can keep all the components in the same file also, right? We have kept header, restaurant card, and body component. Everything is inside one component, right? So we have app layout, body, restaurant card, header. 4 components in one file. Absolutely okay. You can create your whole app into one single file. Completely okay. And at the end of the day, that is what happens, right? Parcel will take down all your code and will merge it into one file and minify it and compress it and do all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, it is happening like that. But remember, the code that we write, the project is for humans, isn't it? For humans, it is very logical to create separate files for separate components. Okay, and because your app or your app, right, or a real world project will have like thousands of components. You can't write all of those components inside the same file, isn't it? So you need to structure our app in a proper way. Okay, that is how a production ready code looks. Got it? So first of all, we will try to break down our app into multiple files. Okay, so first of all, let us just take this header component and put it into a new file. Okay, so a best common practice inside React projects is to create a components folder over here, right? Components folder, and inside this components folder, so see, app.js contains our root level code, and now whatever component I will add inside my app.js, I will put inside these components folder. Okay, now you would say, Akshay, is it mandatory to create this src and then components folder and all that stuff? No, my dear friends. It is upon the developer, it is upon the project maintainers, it is upon you, like who is the owner of the project, to decide what folder structure should your project have. Okay, you can create a folder name with any name, right? Any name, right? Some people like to categorize their files into features, right? So I'll tell you what kind of features. So suppose if we are building this app, right, they want to put all the files related to restaurant in one folder, restaurant, right? All the files related to search in a folder which is search, all the files related to header in a folder header, something like that, right? They structure it in very different ways. But it's my, you can also restructure your app in any way you want to. But for now, right, I will use a standard which is followed in the industry. A lot of projects I have seen is like that. So in the src folder, you will have a components folder, and in this components folder, we will create all our components. Okay. If you want to read more about folder structure, right, so go to, oh my God, so many tabs are open. Let me first of all close these tabs. They are unnecessarily opened over here, right? So if you want to read more about folder structure, right, so write React folder structure, right? And let us see, and there will be, see here the file structure, right? So on the React's official website, react.org, there is a blog, right, for file structure. So it read this, right? This will basically talks about what is a recommended way, right? Is there a recommended ways to structure a project? No. React doesn't have any opinions how you put files into folder. The documentation of React says that it does not matter how you put your files in your folder. React does not care about it, right? React is just a normal library. It will work anyhow. Okay. It's up to you how you want to keep your folder structure. Okay. So please read this, right? It will talk about the folder structure, but there is some popular approaches which are used in the industry. Some companies, I have worked in companies where, some companies just group their files with features or routes, right? So suppose, see, all the components, all the files for common, right? All the common files are there in one folder. All the feed, right? There would be a feed, right? I think it's a social media profile, right? This would be, I think, a social media app, right? So in a social media app, you can keep all the files which are related to feed, right? The test file, the CSS file, the JS files, you can keep all these files inside a feed folder. You can find all the files inside the profile folder, which are related to profile, right? So you can structure your app like this, or you can also structure like this, right? Grouping by file type. So all the components inside a component folder, all the APIs inside a API folder, you can do something like this. Okay. And it also says that avoid too much nesting. So don't create a different folder for different files. No. So, you have to reach a sweet spot. There is no recommended way to do this, right? So it's upon you, it's upon your team, it's upon your project lead, it's upon the owners of the project, how they want to structure their files. Got it? So please do that. And the best part is don't overthink it, right? So you don't have to overthink it, right? And in this app, right, what I will use is, I will try to I will try to use a basic folder structure. And as our app grows, suppose if our app has a lot of components, we will keep restructuring it. That's the best way. Okay. So don't overthink at the first place, right? When you are starting your app, that how do I keep my folder structure? You can always restructure it later. Okay. So for now, let's keep it very simple. Let's move ahead and we will create all our components inside this components folder. First of all, let us create the first component file, which is header.js. Okay. So whenever you create a file for a component, right, try to name it exactly like the name of the component. Okay. The name of my component was header, right? So just write header and then give an extension .js. Okay. And now make sure, right, this is a normal convention that keep your files, like if it is a component file, right? This is a component file. So try to match the exact name. If it is from, it's the name of the component starts from capital letter, keep it the capital letter name, right? So capital H header. That means, if another developer will see your code, they will exactly know that in this file we will have header component. Okay. That is a lingo kind of in the React industry, that if the file name is header.js, it will contain header component. If the file name, suppose let us create one more file, right? Oh my God. In the component folder, I have created one more file, body.js, right? We know that it will have body component. Got it? So let's try to move our code now. Okay. One more thing I wanted to tell you. I have seen this in the industry and I want to give you all the knowledge which I have. I reminded some people also try to name their files as .jsx. Okay. Some people also like to write the name of their files as .jsx. And when you write .jsx, right, it will give you a cool logo. This is an extension which I have installed, VS Code extensions, so that it gives you a cool logo. So basically, there is it's kind of debatable. Some people like to write it .js because it's JavaScript code, and some people like to write it .jsx as the extension. And some people also, suppose if you are using TypeScript, then you would use something known as TSX, right? It's a TypeScript, right? It's a TypeScript. So right, so you can write any name. And basically, now the question is, what is a good way? What should I follow, Akshay? Right? Definitely, you can ask me what you should follow. Again, right, I don't want to get into debates, but I personally like to use .js extension, right? And I have built a lot of projects in Uber and we used to follow .js extension. I like JS extension, so I'm using JS extension. But suppose if you would want to use JSX, please use JSX. It hardly matters. Okay. It does not matter much. It will not matter much. Okay. So don't overthink. I personally like to use JS, right? I don't want to like put in like .jsx and then different JS file, different JSX file. No, one and the same thing. Okay. You can write JSX or JS. Why am I telling you all this? It's not even required, right? It's not even required. Don't overthink much. Just write .js files, right? Why I am telling you all this is because you will go in the industry. I want all the Namaste React students to not feel that I have learned React, but why am I seeing things differently? In the industry, right? All the developers, all the project owners have their own way of writing code, right? Code is very dynamic, right? People write in their own way, own fashion. They structure their projects in random creative ways, right? I like to follow a plain convention always. And all my students, I would like to suggest you that keep it simple. Some people complicate things so much that they want to be so precise that I want to keep my JS file separate and whatever files have JSX code, I will use .jsx inside this file. Why to put like so much head into these small things? Just use JS, right? JSX at the end of the day is JavaScript, right? Code that we are writing. And let me tell you, it will make a zero difference if you write JSX or JS over here, right? So keep it simple, right? I like to keep it simple and I teach my students to be simple, right? The simple code is the best code the simple code is the easiest to maintain. Okay, I don't want to stretch upon it too much. If you want to write .jsx, write .jsx. If you want to write .js, you can write .js. Okay, let us try to now pull our code from app.js to our header.js files. So what I'll do is basically I created this header component, right? Now I'll just copy paste all the code of this header component, right? I will copy paste where we were using header component over here, right? And I will put this code of header.js in my header.js file, exactly like this. Now I have put in my header.js inside header component inside my header.js files, right? But now this is a separate file. So what we will do now is we are using this header code, right? This header component inside my app.js over here, right? So now React will throw an error, right? If I save my file, React will throw an error, right? It won't find this header component, right? It can no longer find this header component. It will throw an error for us, right? If you will go on the page, it will say header is not defined because we don't have header in this file, right? So what we will have to do is we will have to import that header component from that file to our main file, right? Where we are using it. So basically I will have to import this header from this file. Got it? So before I can import, right? Just like we imported React, right? From this React, where is this React? This React is from Node modules, right? So similarly, we will import our header component over here from this file. But before I can import header component, first of all, I will have to export it from my file. Okay, let me repeat it once again. In my app.js, right? I know a lot of people would be confused at this point. In my app.js, right? We are using this header component, right? This header component is no longer in this file, right? It does not recognize it. So that's why it will throw an error. React is not defined, right? Because there is no header over here. What we have to do now is we have to import this header from this file, right? Import this header component. But before we can import it, we need to export this header component. So let me tell you how to export it from here. We use a normal keyword export and we write default, right? We write export default and the name of the component, right? We write header over here. That's how we can export. There are two ways we can export our component. We will see the other way later, right? But first of all, this is the standard practice. Use export default header. So what we did, I have exported header from this file. Now we can import it inside my app.js. Always remember to export. A lot of people don't export it here and then try to import there, right? Always export first, then import, right? First of all, you have to export, then import, right? First of all, you have to give, then take, right? So first of all, I am giving my component from here. I am exporting it, then take, right? So first give, then take. It's a life advice and a advice in React as well. First give, then take, right? So now I'll import. How do I import? Very easy. Just like I was importing React over here from React, similarly, I'll import my header from my path of that file. What is the path of that file? ./components/ my header. Got it? Now, one more thing. Over here also, it is very debatable. A lot of people say that we are importing from a .js file. So I should write .js over here, right? So if you import like this, right, using a header.js, it will work fine, right? Now the header is important. Now React won't complain. If I go back to my file, everything is working fine, right? We see a header component here. So there is a debate in the industry. Some people like to, when they import, right, they write proper name, right? If they have written header.js over here, they will write header.js. If they have made the file name as header.jsx, they will use JSX. But let me tell you, my dear friends, over here, even if you don't put an extension, it still works. Okay? If you don't put any extension, React will treat it as a JavaScript file by itself. Okay, so see why I'm telling you all that, because you will find different projects using different convention. In some projects, some people, some developers would be using .js everywhere, right? They import. Some people would be using JSX. Some people would not write anything. What should I do? You can ask a question, Akshay, what is a good practice? What should I do? Let me tell you, my dear friends, do whatever you wish to, but I personally like to keep it simple. Simple, I don't want to put any extension. I will always use a .js in my file extension, and I will never put anything over here. Right? In this episode and in all the other episodes in this Namaste React, I will follow the same convention, and I like to keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Why to have different extensions and then import and then have different extensions and all that stuff? No need. No need to complicate stuff. Keep it very simple. How easy it is to read, right? How easy we have made for anyone to read our code. Import header. This is the header, right? Component/header. In the components folder, we have header. Makes sense, right? Similarly, now let me do the same thing for body, and then you will revise everything whatever I have taught, right? So this is my body component. I will take this component, right? I will cut it and I will paste this body component here, right? This is the body component. Now I will export. How do I export? Export default and then name of the component. Body over here, right? Body component over here, right? I have exported by default my body component. In the app.js, I will import my body component, right? Import body component. And you know, when you start typing, React will give you the suggestion also. See this. VS Code is giving you this suggestion, auto complete kind of thing, right? If you hit enter, it will auto complete for you, right? So basically, the body is coming from component/body. Easy was it, right? It was easy, right? So this is how you export and import the components. Let us create one more component for restaurant card, okay? So in my components, I have created one more component for restaurant card, right? Now, a lot of people can also argue, Akshay, shall I create a new folder and keep all the restaurant components into one folder? I don't know, right? I like to keep it simple. Let me keep all my components in my component.js file, right? You can create whatever structure you wish to for your app, right? Let me keep it simple. Restaurant card.js is here. Now I will put all the code of, okay, let me copy paste the restaurant card component, right? I have removed it and I have put this over here, right? And now I will export it, right? Export default restaurant card. Got it? Now I have done export default. Where will I import? So where am I using restaurant card? I am not using restaurant card over here, right? I am using my restaurant card in my body.js, right? So basically what I want to tell you, you can import and export from anywhere and you can import anywhere, right? In any JS file. So what I can do is I can now just import my restaurant card from my /restaurant card. So keep a note that I don't have this file path has changed now because the body and restaurant card are at the same level. So we will just write like this, right? And my restaurant card is here. Now let us save and see if our app works. Oh my God, rest list is not defined. Okay, so my rest list is not defined, right? So I have moved my, so did you understand why this error is coming? Just see it. Read this error, right? Read this error. So it says that rest list is not defined. Where am I using my rest list? Rest list is here. Where is this coming from? Nowhere, right? So this code does not understand where this rest list is coming from. Rest list is here, right? Rest list is in our app.js. So one thing is I can just move this rest list to my body file, right? Here we are using rest list, so I can move it over here, right? And now it won't complain, right? I have put my rest list over here. So now we can just access it like this. So if I go and refresh my page, it works fine, right? But this is not a good way. Whenever you have any hard-coded data, right? This is kind of like hard-coded data, right? This is some mock data this is some hard-coded data, you never keep it in your components file. You will never keep it in your components file. Okay, this is an industry standard. This is a best practice. I want to teach you all the best practices which are followed in the industry. Never ever keep a hard-coded data in your component folder. Never. One more thing we hard-coded, right? Remember we hard-coded one more thing in the previous episode? I remember it very well because when I was doing that, I was feeling a cringe that what cringe code I am writing. But I wanted to wait for this moment to teach you that, right? So never ever keep any hard-coded data into your app, right? So I don't want to keep my rest list into this folder, right? Into this, file, this component file. And similarly, I won't keep this URL over here. This URL is also a hard-coded string, right? This is the CDN URL, isn't it? So wherever you have these URL, right? Whenever there is a hard-coded data, don't keep it over here in this component files. And one more place where we used it, right? We used a logo also, right? In our header.js, we use this hard-coded string. Never ever keep any hard-coded string into your component file, right? So where should I keep now then? So a common practice is to keep it inside a separate files, right? So separate file, right? That is known as generally constant.js. Some people call it config.js. Some people call it utils.js, something like that, right? So let me tell you a standard way which I have seen in the industry a lot, right? So let us create a folder utils. So all the utility files, right, which are common utilities, we will put it over here, right? Some people also like to name this as common, right? So you can call this as common, the folder name as common. Some people like to call this as config. So I like to call this as utils, right? Utils means utilities that will be used all across your app. So this logo can be used anywhere in your app, right? Any component can use this logo, right? You have a footer component that, suppose if you build a footer component, that footer component can be used in can use the logo URL, isn't it? So similarly, I will keep all these hard-coded things into my utils and I will create a file named constants, right? Again, right? Anything which I am telling you right now is not mandatory. It's just a good practice. I want to teach you the good industry practices which we do, right? So constants, right? .js, right? Now I have named it as a small letter, right? Why? Because this is not a component, right? So make sure that you name your, when somebody is reading it, right? Your code should make sense. Your folder structure, your file structure should make sense, right? It makes sense, right? Header.js, what will it have? Header component. Body.js, what will it have? Body component. Constant.js, it will have all the constants, right? All the hard-coded things inside this constant files, right? So what I will do is, let us first of all, one by one, move all of that in the constant file, right? So first of all, let me move all of that in my constant files, right? So this is a CDN URL, right? So let me move this CDN URL to constant.js, right? I will write a constant CDN URL, right? And I will give it CDN URL, right? Oh my God. CDN URL, right? I have created one constant CD URL. Now I will create another constant and I will call that as logo URL, right? Logo URL, right? And it's a good habit to name all the constants in a capital letters, okay? With like a camel, snake case. What do you call this as? Snake case, right? Yes. Okay, capital letters and snake case, right? And let me just copy this, right, over here, and let me just put it inside put it inside this, right? Okay, so I have my CDN URL and logo URL over here. What else hard-coded data we have? We have this REST list, right? So this restaurant list, it's a all big plain object, right? So I can just remove this and I can, in the utils, either I can put it in constant.js file, right? I can just put in constant.js. But let's make a different file, right? What's there, right? Let's call that as mockdata.js, right? Mockdata.js. Okay. And in my mock data, I have put in this REST list. Got it? So now I have created two files in my utilities because I can use this mock data. I have kept it in a single place, right? In my utils. So why do I name it utils? Utils are like utilities, right? Which will be used all across our app. So that's why I have named it as utils, right? Now, we will have to use these things, right? So first of all, let me tell you about mock data, right? So we have to, first of all, where we have to use this inside my body, right? It will again start complaining. If you save this file, right, it will again start complaining that REST list is not found, right? Something REST list is not defined. So now I have to import my REST list from the constants file, right? From the constants, not the constants file, mockdata.js file. How do I import this REST list? Before I can import, I have to just, right? I have to just export it. Easy, right? I can just export it from REST list, and now I can go to body and I can import my data, right? What is the data? REST list. REST list from my util/mock data. Got it? Now, it was easy, right? It is very easy. Now let me close all these files, right? Now, one thing, let me close this index.html also. Now I have to tell you an important thing. One way to export your data is using export default REST list. Okay. One thing is when you have to export, this is one way to export. This is known as a normal export, right? This default export, right? This is known, see, there are two types of export, there are two types of import. One is the default export. This is the default export. One is the named export or named import. Okay, so I'll tell you the second way to export, right? The second way to export is used generally when in a single file you have to export multiple things. Right? So in this constant file, I have to export CDN URL as well as logo URL. So in one file, I can only have one default export. Okay? One default export. Right? I can write one default export. I cannot write this twice. This is C. It will throw an error. I cannot write a default twice. Module cannot have multiple default exports. See, it starts complaining. So one way to export is using a default export, but a file, right? So basically if you think in English, right? In English, what do you mean by a default export? Suppose if I say that my constant has a default export of something. That means by default, the constant file exports something, right? By default, my header file exports my header component. Right? So similarly, by default, a file can only export one thing. Suppose if you have to export multiple things. Suppose if you have to export multiple things. How do you do that? So then we use something known as named export. Then we use something known as named export. How do I use name export? So basically it is very easy. You can just write export in front of your variable or constant, whatever you wish to export. It was easy, right? So I can just write a export const CDN URL and I can export this CDN URL. I can export my logo URL like this. When I have exported, so this is how you can export. This is how you can export multiple things from the same file. If you have to export multiple things from the same file, you will always have to use a named export import, right? Named export. There are two types of export import, named export and a default export. Got it? Two things. Cool. So now, once we have used named export, how do I import? So when we will import, there will be a slight difference. There will be a slight difference in importing. Okay, so where I have to import this CDN URL? So CDN URL was in restaurant card, right? In my restaurant card, we had this CDN URL. Oh, here should be our CDN URL, right? So basically I want to use this CDN URL, right? CDN URL over here. But first of all, I need to import my CDN URL, right? So whenever you have your named exports, you have to write curly braces and then whatever you need to import, right? This is how you import a named export, right? From your file, right? Whatever file you have. What was that file name? Dot dot slash, right? Dot dot slash dot dot slash utils slash constants, right? Constants. Got it? So this is how you import a named so basically this was a named export, right? So named export is imported like this. Got it? And a default export. Suppose if we had exported the CDN URL by default, so then you don't use this. Then you don't have to use this. Got it? So this is our named import. So named import is like this. Named export is using the export keyword. Got it? Now let me go back and we have the CDN URL. Now let us use this logo URL, right? So I have this logo URL. I want to use my logo inside header.js. How will I import? Come on, repeat it with me. It's a named import, so I will use it like this, right? Logo URL from utils slash constant. Now, how will I use this? Now this logo URL, how will I use this? Never ever do this mistake, okay? Some people would like to write like this. No, this is a string, right? No, I want to give it as a variable. This is a variable. This is a JavaScript variable, right? Logo URL. This is a JavaScript constant. This is what we were exporting from here, right? JavaScript constant. It's a constant variable. So how do I write a constant variable over here in JSX? Oh my God, you people know it already, right? In the curly braces, I will write a logo URL like this. Got it? So this is how you have to import the named exports, right? Let's go back. Oh, I think I misspelled this, right? I misspelled the name or something. Oh, it was just dot dot slash, not double time, right? So the path was different. So the path was wrong over here. Cool. The path is still wrong. Why? Import CDN URL from utils slash constant. Dot dot slash utils slash constants, right? This looks fine, right? Dot dot slash. Did I misspelled it? Oh, constants. Oh, I have changed this name. Oh my God, I have named it constant, right? Constants. Okay. My bad. Okay. So I have to name it properly. Okay. So I have to name it properly. Let me change it over here also. Constants. Great. Cool. So now it works, right? So let me revise it once again. There are two types of export, right? There are two types of export, right? Export and import, right? Basically export, import. Okay. So there are two types of export and import. First type is default, right? Default export import, right? How do you do a default export import? How do you do default export import? So you will write export default and then the component name or whatever name of component or a variable or something, name of variable or whatever you need to import, right? You have to write it like this. This is a default export. How do you import it? Import, right? So let us just write a name, right? Export constant component, right? Component or variable or anything, right? At the end of the day, component is also a variable, right? This header is a variable, right? So component, right? Export default component. And how you will do? Import component component from your path. Got it? This is your default export. Now named export import, right? Named export import, export constant component or data or whatever, right? Export component. You can also you can also export constant component, right? You can also export your component using a named export. Okay, you can do that too. I'll show it to you, right? And how do you import it? You can import it like this, right? Component from your path. Got it? So this is how you do named export import. This is how you do default export import. Very important, because we will do a lot. We will be using a lot of times named export import. We will be doing a lot of time default export import, right? But make sure that in one file, a lot of people don't understand that what we are writing. A lot of people don't, in the code, you will see a lot of times you will import like this. And a lot of times you will import without these. People don't understand what they are doing. They just keep doing it. They don't understand. They use autocomplete, so they hardly get to know, right? So when you do autocomplete, so it automatically puts these curly braces and it works. The code starts working for them, right? But you should know exactly why you are putting curly braces here and when you should put, when you should not put. Got it? So this is how you do it, right? Let me just show it. This is header.component. So this is my default component, default export, right? Suppose if I had to do named export here, right? So let me remove my default. I can do a named export also, right? Export constant header, right? And then where is my app.js? So over here, I will write it like this and it will work perfectly fine, right? It will work perfectly fine. Got it? So this is the named import. This is the default import. Got it? Now I have few questions for you. Okay, let me go back. A good practice is to keep default export, right, for components, right? Unless there are two things which you are exporting from here, don't use named export, right? It's completely fine to use default export. This syntax even looks clear, right? It's very clean, isn't it? When you have to export multiple things, use named export. Okay. Now, one more thing I wanted to tell you over here. One more thing is that one more question, basically a curious question, right? Take this down as a homework, okay? Will you take that down as a homework? Can I use a default export along with a named export? Can I do both of these like this? This is your homework. Try to find it out. I won't tell you the answer, okay? Try to mix and match things. Try to do it yourself, okay? So please, let's take a break. And let us just pause for a moment. Please go back to your app and clean your app. Structure our app. See how beautiful our app looks now, right? I have, when I used to work in Uber, right? So in my Uber, right? So we had it was not a rule, but it was a standard practice to not keep our file content more than 100 lines. So every file in your app, your file or your component file should not exceed more than 100 lines. If it is exceeding 100 200 lines, that means you are doing something wrong. You can break it down into different components and files. Okay, so it's always a good practice to keep your components small, keep your components clean. Okay, so now see how beautiful our app looks, isn't it? It looks beautiful, right? It looks very structured. That my components have body.js, this will have my body component. My components have a header, it will have just code of header component. My restaurant card has just code for our restaurant card component. So clean, isn't it? So this is how we will keep structuring. As and when we will make more components, we will keep adding new files for it, right? And let me tell you, don't use a lot of brains. Just create a new file for a new component, right? So just follow this convention and you will always be good. Got it? So this is how we clean our code, and it was very important. Pause the video over here, take a break, do the restructuring of your app your own way, and then come back. We are going to learn React hooks now. Okay, we are going to learn React hooks now. I have taken a lot of time already. So let's dive into hooks now, right? Welcome back, my dear friends. Welcome back. And let us now make our app dynamic, right? We will make our app dynamic. So what do you mean by dynamic? It is just static, right? Right now we have no interactions in our app, right? We don't have any buttons that clicks, and we don't change anything on our web page. It's like a normal plain static website, right? It is kind of like a read-only website. Now we will make our website dynamic. We will make our website interactive. Okay, how? By adding some features to it. And everything what I will teach you is project based learning. Okay, so we will keep building features and we will keep learning basic React concepts. You know, I just don't want to teach you theory. I want to teach everything practical to you. Okay, so now first of all, let me teach you a concept using a feature. Okay, the feature which we are going to develop now in our app is, suppose I want to create a button over here which if you click on that button, it will show you the top rated restaurants. Right now the restaurant has we have all sort of restaurant, right? So let us create a button. On click of that button, we will just show top rated restaurant. What is a top rated restaurant? So basically, let's write an algorithm for top rated restaurant. Let's call, suppose if a restaurant has a rating of greater than 4 stars, let's call it as a top rated restaurant. Okay, does that make sense? Let me revise you once again what feature I'm going to develop. We will have a button. That button is like top rated restaurant. It's kind of like a filter. If you click on that filter, so our page right now is showing 15 restaurant, right? So it should filter out all the top rated restaurant. What are the top rated restaurant? So this Meghna Foods are 4.4 stars, right? So 4.4 stars is a top rated restaurant. 3.8 star KFC, no. Oh my god, KFC will be filtered out because I want only the top rated restaurant which have rating greater than 4. Okay, so let's build this feature and we will learn a lot of concept while we will build this. Okay, so let us make our app interactive now. I will tell you how to do something on click of the button. How do you add click handlers? How do you add a lot of things, right? We will see a lot of things while we do that. Okay, so first of all, let's create our button. So this is our web page, right? Where is our body component? Right? This is our body component, right? So just take a moment to see this code, right? Body component, this body component has a search bar and we have a restaurant container. So instead of search bar, right? So for now, let's just skip this search, right? We will build search later on. First of all, let's build that button, right? Let's build that filter. Okay. So instead of this search bar, right? Let's name this as filter. Okay. We can have different filters. In this filter, let us create a button. Okay. Let's create a button. Let's give it a class name as top, or maybe top rated restaurant, or maybe let's call it as filter button, right? What's there? Filter button, filter BTN. I don't know why people write BTN, but it's a short form of button, right? I follow the same, right? So this is a button. Let's call this as top rated, right? Top rated restaurant. Okay, top rated restaurants. Okay, so we have this top rated restaurant, right? We have this button. Let us go back. So we have this button, right? Top rated restaurant. If I click on this button, right? If I click on this button, let's give some space to it, right? So let's give this filter button some space, right? What was here? Search was here, right? So let's go to CSS file. Let's write some CSS here, right? Filter BTN, and let's give it some padding, right? It looks very ugly, clumsy. Padding, or let's give it margin, right? Margin of 10px. Okay, so we have given this a margin of 10px. Cool. So if I click on it, let's make it cursor pointer also, because it doesn't look like clickable now, right? Cursor pointer. Okay, so if I see, now it looks clickable. If I click on this, my restaurant should filter out the top rated restaurant which have written more than 4. How do I build this kind of feature? First of all, let me tell you, how do I add click handler? So suppose if I click on this button, something should happen. How do I write that? Right? Let's first see event handlers, right? Event handlers. How do you handle a on-click event? Got it? Suppose if you have a do you remember how do we do it in a normal JavaScript, normal HTML, CSS, JavaScript? There are multiple ways, right? Not going to teach you. Read it down, find it down yourself if you don't know it. But let me tell you how do you do it in React, right? It's very easy, right? When you have this button, right? I have to do something on click, right? I have to do something on click. So what I'll do is in this button, I'll pass an attribute. Okay. So I'll pass an attribute and that attribute is known as on click. Okay. It is very easy, on click. And now this on click takes a callback function. Okay. This is the function which will be called on click. Okay. This is the callback function which will be called on click. So this is the arrow function. Got it? So on click, you can write on the button on click, and whatever you will pass, this function is a callback function which will be called after on click, right? Let me just show it to you. Let's write console.log over here, right? Button clicked or something. Button clicked. Okay. Clicked. Do you see this? Read this code properly. Pause this video, read this code. So in this button tag, I have put in on click. This on click, basically see, this function is JavaScript, right? So this callback function is JavaScript. That's why we are wrapping this inside these curly braces inside JSX. Got it? So this is the callback function which will be called when we click this button, right? Let's just see if the console logs print on the console or not. If I click on it, do you see button clicked was printed? Let me click it on once again. See, if I click it on, it is just showing, right? 10 times I have clicked this button. Got it? So this is how you add click handlers. It was easy, right? Suppose if you have to add more click handlers, right? More handlers, you can do all those things, right? If you write on, you can write this, right? So suppose if there is a select box, you can write on blur, you can write on hover. On hover, is there something like on hover? On hover? No, there is no on hover, right? Hover is not a... Is there an event for hover? Oh my god, I have never got a chance to ever write some JavaScript for hover, right? Hover event JavaScript. Oh my god, this is something new. Okay, on mouse over. Okay, you call this as on mouse over. So I think there will be on mouse over, not hover. On mouse. Yep, see, on mouse enter, on mouse over, right? Here is, all the events that you find in JavaScript, there is something inside React also for them, right? Equivalent, right? So this is how you will do something on mouse over. Let's try to do this, right? On mouse over. Let me just try to play this, right? I have never written any Java. Oh my god, it has been so many years I am writing and building web apps, but I have never got a chance to ever put a event handler on mouse over. Yes, see this. If I go back, see this. Button clicked is being printed here, right? See this. Fun thing. Cool. Anyways, so you understood, right? So you can have on click and you can have any event you wish to put like this, right? Now, on click of this button, my restaurant list should change, right? Over here, I should only filter out the restaurant which have high rating. Got it? There should be high rating restaurant visible to me. How do I do that? How do I do that? First of all, now pay 120% attention, because whatever I'm going to tell you right now is really very important. Very, very important. Okay. So now let's go back and see the basics. How are these cards coming over here? How are these cards coming over here? These cards are coming from this restaurant list, right? The data is in restaurant list, isn't it? This restaurant list. And this restaurant list has some mock data, right? This restaurant list has some mock data inside it, isn't it? So, what I want to do, suppose if I wanted to show just 3 restaurants over here. So what should I do? I should just change this restaurant list and my web page will change, isn't it? Our UI is config driven, right? Whatever restaurant list, if my restaurant list will change, everything will change, isn't it? If my restaurant list, if my this, you know, how is this powered, right? How are these cards getting generated? These cards are getting generated by restaurant list, right? So anything which changes in restaurant list, our web page should change, isn't it? So that is the basics of your dynamism in your React app. Okay, so let me tell you what am I trying to say. First of all, let us not use restaurant list. Okay, let's not use mock data. Let's not use mock data. Okay, let's use let me teach you from the basics. Okay, because this is an important concept. Suppose if we did not have this restaurant list. Okay, let's ditch this restaurant list. Okay, let's create our own restaurant list. Okay, let's call it as list of restaurants. Got it? Suppose if this list of restaurants is empty. Now instead of my restaurant list, I will just use list of restaurant. Okay. So suppose if I have this list of restaurants empty list. Okay. My list of restaurant is empty list, right? Now let me go and let me try to power my UI by using list of restaurant. What I did is clearly see. Now I am not using any mock data. I want to start from basics. Okay, pay 100% attention to what am I doing, right? Very important thing which I'm going to teach you right now. Okay, if you will understand this fundamental, right, your React basics will be very clear, because whatever I'm going to teach you will be useful all across your life lessons I am teaching you right now. Okay, whenever till React exists, this will exist, right? So I'm teaching you the basics of why React exists, right? These are the amazing things, right? I just love it, right? So we have this list of restaurant. It is an empty list right now, and I am trying to loop over this empty list. Okay, I am trying to loop over this empty list over here, right? So when I am looping over empty list, what will you see on the web page, right? What will you see on the web page? What will you see? Empty, right? It will not have any restaurant because there is no restaurant. Suppose if I had one restaurant over here, right? Suppose if I had one restaurant over here, right? So let's get one restaurant over here, right? Let's make it, right? Let's not use the mock data. Let's create a restaurant. Okay, let's name this as Domino's, right? Let's add Domino's over here, right? Let's have Domino's, right? What else do we need to render that card? We need a URL, right? I'll have to use my mock data, right? Let me just get this mock data. See, this mock data is cluttered. That's why I did not want to use it, right? So the mock data is this, right? Let me just copy it now. So I have this restaurant. Let me use this, right? But let me get rid of all these random things, right? I will not need all this, right? I will just need my average rating. I will not need all of this, right? Let me just clean this, right? So I will not need all this. I will not need all this, right? Let me just... Cool. So I have my delivery time. I don't need this. I will just need cost for 2. I will need cuisines. I will need my Cloudinary image ID, right? And I will need my name, and I will need this ID, and I don't need this type, right? Now the data looks so clean, isn't it? And the name of the restaurant is KFC. Now I have put in the basic restaurant details, and I don't even need this type, right? I just need this data, right? So this is one restaurant. I have put in data of one restaurant over here. What will I see on my page? I will see this one restaurant, right? I have got this KFC card. Got it? I have got this KFC card over here. Why? Because I am using this list of restaurant. Got it? Now, understand the basic difference, right? Suppose if I have one more restaurant, okay? One more restaurant. Now, this restaurant is Domino's, right? Let me change some things. Domino's. Domino's, right? And its rating is over here, the average rating is that is 3.8, right? Let's make this restaurant rating as 4.5, right? Cool. And let me keep the other things as same, right? Let me keep the other things as same, right? And let me save. What will you see in the UI? See this. KFC and Domino's. KFC has rating 3.8. Domino's have rating 4.5. Got it? KFC has rating 3.8. Domino's have rating 4. Don't take it literally. I'm just using this as an example, okay? So I don't know if the KFC fans will just, oh my god, will curse me, right? Because I'm giving it less rating. Why I'm giving it? So what I want to do now is, if I click on this top rated restaurant, I should only get my Domino's. Got it? This is the feature I am going to build. Okay. So see this. So what I have to do is on click, right? On click of this button, I have to do something over here so that I can only filter my top rated restaurant. Okay. I have to only filter out top rated restaurant. Got it? So basically I have to somehow write a filter logic over here, right? Filter logic here, right? On click of this button, I need to filter out something. What I need to filter out, I need to modify. So see, how is the UI getting generated? The UI is getting generated by list of restaurant. Let me just close this for now, right? So if my list of restaurant has 2 restaurants, my UI will display 2 restaurants. See, whenever you have a React app, there is a UI layer and a data layer, right? So the UI layer will display what is being sent by data layer, right? So in my data layer, we have 2 objects. So the UI will display 2 cards. Now, suppose if somehow my list of restaurant modifies to 1 restaurant. My list of restaurant is filtered to 1 restaurant. Got it? Is filtered to 1 restaurant. What will happen? The UI will automatically show 1 restaurant, right? So what I have to do, I have to filter my logic over here, right? I have to filter my logic over here, and I have to change my list of restaurant to just have 1 restaurant, right? So what I can do is, can I write something like this? List of restaurant is equals to list of restaurant dot filter, right? And what I will filter on? Filter basis on the restaurant. And suppose if you don't know what am I writing right now, go check my map filter reduce video. Okay. So this is basically filtering inside that object, right? So basically how do you filter it? So res, and if my restaurant dot data dot average rating is greater than 4, then filter out all the restaurant, right? So this will filter out all the restaurant and it will update my list of restaurant. Read this code, right? If you don't understand what I have written this, go check out my map filter reduce video. This is like plain JavaScript, right? I have not written any fancy React logic over here. This is just filtering, right? So I have filtered my list of restaurant. So basically, whenever I'll click it, my list of restaurant will now have, right? Earlier, my list of restaurant had 2 restaurant, right? As soon as I click, my list of restaurant will only contain filtered restaurant. My list of restaurant will only contain filtered restaurant. Okay. And let me just log it and see if that changes or not. Let me just log it and see, right? List of restaurant. Let me just log it and see if it works or not. Got it? So let's just log it. Let me go back and let me open the console. Encounter 2 children with the same key. See, we are getting a warning. Encounter 2 children with the same key. Why? Because we have copied pasted, right? Let me change the key first of all. Right? Let me change the key. See, now error is gone. Cool. You understand, right? Why I did this? If you did not understand, go back, watch the previous episode, right? So now I have 2 restaurants. Now let me click on it. If I click on it, oh my God. assignment to a constant variable. Okay, so assignment to a constant variable, right? This variable should be a let variable, right? I am trying to modify my constant variable. Basics of JavaScript, right? So this is a let variable now, right? This is a let variable. Now let me just refresh it. If I click on my top rated restaurant, do you see this? We only got one restaurant over here. Our data is filtered. Our data is filtered. But our UI did not update. Our data is filtered, but our UI did not update. Right? On click of this button, let me refresh the page and show it to you. This Domino's has rating 4.5, right? And KFC has written 3.8. If I click on this button, we have, what happened? On click of this button, my list of restaurant is now filtered, right? It has filtered all the restaurant with rating 4. Isn't it? Suppose, let us create one more restaurant and we will see, right? Suppose, let me just copy this, right? Let me just copy this. Let's create one more restaurant. We have Domino's, KFC. Let's have MacD also, right? MacD, MCD, right? I'm just writing MCD. Okay. And let's give this a rating of, 4.1, right? 4.1. Got it? 4.1 average rating. So now on my page, we have 3 restaurants, KFC, Domino's, MCD, right? If I click on my top rated restaurant, see, we got 2, right? We have got Domino's and MCD because they are greater than 4. They have rating greater than 4. Got it? So now, but the UI isn't getting updated. How do I update my UI? Basically, ideally, don't you think that my list of restaurant changes, so it should have automatically changed in? Over here, if my list of restaurant changes, so automatically this should have refreshed. How cool would that have been that if I'm clicking on that button, if I'm clicking on that button, my list of restaurant earlier had, what is list? So my list of restaurant earlier had 3 objects, right? 3 restaurant. If I click on this button, now it had 2 restaurant. So automatically my page would have refreshed. How cool would it be? Instead of writing that logic. This is the superpower which React has. You know, when we say React is fast in DOM manipulation. React is efficient in DOM manipulation. Okay, and this is the exact problem that React is solving. Suppose if you have to keep your data and the UI layer consistent with each other, tied to each other, that is where React comes into picture. And all the other frameworks, right? Angular, React, Vue, all the other frameworks are trying to solve this. That our UI layer and data layers are work with each other, right? Properly in sync. If my data changes, my UI layer changes. Got it? So this is the thing which all these frameworks are like trying to solve, right? Updating the DOM efficiently. You know why React is fast? In your interviews ever somebody says React is fast? Because it can do faster DOM manipulation. It can do efficient DOM manipulation. There is something known as virtual DOM. Right? There is something known as diff algorithm. There is something known as reconciliation. We will talk about all of this later. Right? But first of all, listen to me. This is the exact problem that React is trying to solve. Right? If I click on this button, my list of restaurants changed to 2 restaurants. So my UI should also update according to the data, right? My UI is tied to this list of restaurants, so it should automatically change. To do this, React gives you a superpower. So right now, this list of restaurant is a normal JavaScript variable is a normal JavaScript let variable. But if you give this list of restaurant superpowers of React, it will become a super energetic React variable. It will become a super energetic React variable. And that see, this is a normal JavaScript, right? Normal JavaScript JS variable, right? Now I want to create a super powerful React variable. How do you create a super powerful React variable? And we also call this as a state variable. So basically, it is like a state of this component. Okay, it is like a variable which is, see, this is a normal JavaScript variable, right? So we will give it as we will make a state variable in React, right? State is a keyword, right? It's a lingo in React. We call this as a state variable. Now, this is a super powerful variable, right? Powerful variable. I'll show you how, right? So let's create a super powerful variable. How do you create a super powerful variable first of all? So we will give superpowers to this list of restaurant now. React superpowers. How do I create a super powerful variable? Let me show it to you. For that, we use hooks. For that, we use a React hook which is known as useState. This is the introduction to hooks. I will make it very simple for you. Okay, so suppose if you have to create a super powerful variable. Okay, so first of all, let's forget about what we are doing in our app. Don't forget, basically, keep that aside, right, for now. Let me explain you what is hooks. You know, we complicate a lot of stuff when we learn React. Right? We complicate a lot of stuff. A lot of teachers complicate a lot of stuff. Right? But I want to simplify it. What is a functional component at the end of the day? It's a normal JavaScript function, isn't it? A normal JavaScript function. What is basically a React element at the end of the day? It's a plain JavaScript object, isn't it? React element is a plain JavaScript object. Similarly, a hook. What is a React hook at the end of the day? A React hook is a normal JavaScript function, my dear friends. A normal JavaScript function which is given to us by React. Right? A hook is just a normal JavaScript function which is given to us by React. It's a pre-built. The only thing is that function comes with some superpowers. That function has some logic written behind the scenes inside React. That function is a utility function given by React to us. Okay, so all the hooks, there are multiple such functions and those are known as React hooks. Okay, so let me tell you some theory. Okay, I am taking down all my notes inside this readme file, right? Let's talk about React hooks, right? React hooks. So in this React hooks, right, they are normal JavaScript function. They are normal JavaScript function. Okay, they are normal JS functions. Who wrote these functions? Written by Facebook developers, right? These are normal JS, and you can call them a normal JS utility functions. Who wrote this? Facebook developers wrote this, right? Where did they write this utility functions? They have written this inside the React, right? Inside the React which you import inside. We did npm install React, right? We got all these utility functions into our code. We got all the utilities functions into our code. Now, how do I use it? How do you use it? Let me tell you. We will have to import these utility functions. So there are multiple React hooks. Whenever I will say a React hook, just understand it is just a normal JavaScript functions. Okay. First of all, you have to make things simple. Very simple. React is very simple. Okay. It's a normal JavaScript utility function. There are two very important hooks. Two very important React hooks. One hook is known as useState. Okay. One hook is known as useState. It is a utility, right? And one is useEffect. Okay, a lot of people who have tried to learn React would have already known this, right? Who have seen outside some tutorials or something would already know what is this React hooks. But I am assuming you don't know anything, right? So there are two most important hooks: use state and use effect. 99% of the times in React, you will be working with both of them, right? And basically 80% of the times you will be writing this, 20% of the time you will be writing this, and very less percent of the time you will be using. There are multiple hooks in React, but you would be only using these two most important hooks for a lot of time, right? So make sure that you are really good at these two hooks. Right now, I am going to teach you the first hook. This is use state hook. This basically is used to give superpowers, right? Super powerful. This is used to generate super powerful state variables in React, right? This can create, you know what? Use state basically gives you super powerful React variables. Okay, I'll tell you how is it good. What does it mean by? You would think that, Akshay, are you kidding me? What are you saying? What is super powerful React variables? I'll show it to you. How do you use state is, first of all, you need to import this use state. Now, my dear friends, please note this. You have to import this use state from your React, right? From your React. Okay? It is import from React, right? And now, I'll tell you an important thing. How do you import? You have to import it like a named import. Named import. I have just taught you this, right? Just half an hour before. You have to import this as a named import. How did you import that React as? So we imported React also, right? We imported this React as default import. Now do you see what is happening behind the scenes? I want my students to be amazing. They should exactly know how every small thing is working, how this import statement is working. So basically, some React developers, now we have all the knowledge of default and named import, right? So now, do you understand that how this React is coming over here? Somebody would have exported this React inside this React. Where is this React coming from? This node modules. So if you'll go to this code, right, somewhere or the other inside this React, right, somebody would have exported that capital React. Somebody would have exported that capital React. If you will find, you will definitely find it. Somebody would have exported this React. That is how we are able to import it now, right? That is how we are able to import it over here. Okay, so similarly, somebody would have named exported, right? Somebody would have written export constant use state or whatever, right? Constant or let or whatsoever it is. So somebody would have exported this state variable. Got it? React hook. So whenever I say hook, that means I am talking about a utility function. Okay, so the first utility function that we are going to learn is use state. How do you use use state? So use state is to create state variable. That is why the name is use state. State variable. When I say state variable, why is it called state variable, right? Because it maintains the state of your application, or it maintains the not even application, it maintains the state of your component. I am creating a local state variable inside body, right? Let's call this as a local state variable. So what is the scope of this list of restaurant? I have created this let, right? So the scope of this variable is inside this function, right? This body function. Similarly, a local state variable scope is inside that component. Okay, inside that component. How do you create a state variable? First of all, tell me, like, you have to note it down. Take down as note. You have to create. Suppose if I had to create this list of restaurant here, right? So you create a variable like this, right? So let me write it down, then we will see. Okay, list of restaurant is equal to use state. Okay, use state. Got it? And right, so this is how you create it. So what happens is, let me tell you how it happened. Whenever you call this use state, right? This is a normal JavaScript function. When you will call this use state, right? When you will call this use state, it will give you a state variable. How do you receive that state variable? Like this. How do you receive that state variable? Like this. Inside an array. Okay? Inside an array. List of restaurant. Right? This is how you create a state variable. It is complaining because the name is same. Let me comment this down for now. Right? Let me comment this down. Right? Let me comment this list of restaurant down. Right? So now this is the list of variable is a super powerful React variable. Right? Now, similarly, just like we created this let list of restaurant, similarly, we created this state variable. So this is exactly like doing let list of restaurant. This is how you do it this is how you create a normal variable. This is how you create a state variable. Normal variable, normal JS variable. And this is how you create a state variable. Got it? This is a normal JS variable. This is a state variable. Now, suppose we give it, what we did was we gave it an empty array, right? We gave the default value of this list of restaurant as empty array, right? Initially. Similarly, we pass this default value over here. So whatever we will pass over here becomes the default value of this variable. Okay? Whatever we will pass, if it is looking complicated, don't worry. Everything will be easy. Just keep listening to me properly, okay? I understand that it might sound complicated, Akshay. What are you? You are overloading a lot of things into our head. Wait a while. Everything will make sense. Everything will make sense. Okay. So we have a normal list of restaurant. Right. We have this list of restaurant. So we have this const list of restaurant. This is a normal local state variable by React. Not a normal variable. This is a state variable by React. How do you create it? How do you pass in default value? Over here in this use state. Suppose if I had to give default value as null. So I'll pass in null over here. Suppose if I have to give a default value of one restaurant, right? One restaurant object. So I can give it the data of one restaurant here, right? So this is how you pass in default value to your list variable, right? Now let me comment this down because it is conflicting the name. And now how do you use this variable? You use this variable normally. It behaves like a normal variable only. Okay, but let me go back and let us see this. It is empty now. Why? Because we have given empty over here. Let us give it a restaurant in sec, right? Let us give it this data. First of all, let me uncomment this, or let me uncomment everything right here. So let me call this as list of restaurant 2. Right? Or list of restaurant JS. This is a normal JS variable. Okay. Right. So let me give it a default value of one card. Right. So if I give it a value of one card, right? Let's go back. See this. Our component is rendered. It works absolutely just like this normal JS variable, isn't it? Suppose if I give it a list of all these three, suppose let me give it a default value of all these variables, right? Let me get rid of this, right? Now we don't need this, right? So let me give it a list of all these variables. I have given this the data of all three cards, right? Let me just close this so that it is visible properly. So this is list of restaurant. Use state is giving us this list of restaurant like this. Make sure to add this inside an array, right? Array. So use state is giving me this list of restaurant, right? And I can use the list of restaurant over here, right? We are using the list of restaurant.map. It is working as a normal variable. But see this, we have our KFC Domino's MCD. Now, let me tell you how do you modify this variable? You know, because it is a special React variable, it is a special state variable, The way of creating is it different. You don't create it like normal constant list of restaurant is equals to something. No. You have to create it in a special way using a hook. Okay, use state hook, which gives you the array. Now, if I have to modify this list of restaurant, suppose if I want to modify this list of restaurant, I cannot do something like this. List of restaurant is equals to, this is not valid. I cannot modify this like this. How do I have to modify it? By a function. Okay, by a function, and the function comes as the second parameter in this array, and this is known as set list of restaurant. Set list of restaurant. Set list of restaurant. Right? So basically, you can name this as whatever you wish to. You can name this as whatever you wish to. I can also write set list. But it is a preferred convention in the industry. If the name is list of restaurant, put it set list of restaurant. If the name over here is res, you can do set res. So basically you apply a set before it, right? It's not a mandatory thing. It's just a nomenclature which we follow in the industry, and please follow this, right? So we have this list of restaurant. So this set list of restaurant is used to update this list. Okay, so you have to update this list. Now suppose if I click on this button, right? If I click on this button, I want to update my list of restaurant. I cannot do list of restaurant equal to. This is not a proper way of updating a state variable. How do I update my state variable is, I will call this set list of restaurant and pass in the new data which I want to push inside it. Pass in the new data which I want to push inside it. Right? What I want to push inside it, right? First of all, let me just make it empty for now, right? Let me just make it empty. Suppose on click of this button, right? Or let us pass, what will I pass? If I click on this button, so whatever data we need to, suppose if I want to update this state variable, I will use this set list of restaurant now, right? I will pass in data which needs to be pushed inside my list of restaurant, right? So what I need to push in list of restaurant, I need to basically filter these list of restaurant, right? So basically I'll show you what needs to be done, right? In a proper way. Okay. So what will happen is, now let me create a filtered list, right? Filtered list. And now I want to pass this filtered list inside my list of restaurant, right? So how would I do that? I will just do a set list of restaurant, and I will now pass in my filtered list over here. So basically I am updating my list of restaurant with this filtered list. Let me repeat everything once again. Everything once again, a recap of everything before I move ahead. You can create a normal variable like this, right? You can create a normal variable like this, constant list, right, is equals to an empty list, right? But, and how do you update this list? You can update this list as list is equals to ABC. You can update it like normally, right? Okay, so this is a const, so it is not updated. It will not get updated. Let's make it a let, and we can update it like this, right? You can modify it. Isn't it? You can even do something like this, right? Const list, you can do a list.push, right? List.push ABC, right? You can push some data into this list. This is perfectly valid, right? You can push some data inside it, right? But in this super powerful React variable, now you would say, Akshay, you are saying super powerful a lot of times. I'll tell you what the super powerful is, right? So this super powerful React variable, whenever this variable we need to update, first of all, we need to create it like this by giving a default value over here. Suppose if I want to update the value of this list of restaurant, I will not modify it directly using a equal to sign, but I will use a set list of restaurant method to update it. Whatever we need to update inside my list, suppose if I wanted to make my list of restaurant empty, how would I do that? Set list of restaurant and then empty, right, over here. So this will make our list of restaurant empty. So this is equivalent to writing list of restaurant is equals to empty, right? Basically, this is how you do it inside React, right? So I have done my set list of restaurant is equal to filtered list, right? On click of my button. Let's go back to our UI and like try to see. So we have rendered these 3 restaurants, right? Why are these 3 restaurants coming up over here? You are absolutely right. Because we have given the default value as 3 restaurants. Now, if I click on this button, what will happen? It will create a filtered list and it will update my list of restaurants. Isn't it? It will update my list of restaurants. Let us just go to the browser and let's click on the button and see what happens, right? So when I will click on this button, you will see a magic. You will see a magic as soon as I click on this button. See this. Our UI got filtered automatically. Our UI got filtered automatically. How powerful this is, right? So basically, the super powerful variable keeps the UI in sync with the data layer. Okay. If this list of restaurant was a normal variable, right? So if I will update it, my UI does not update. My UI will not update. But if we have a super powerful React variable, it will keep the UI in sync with that variable, right? So when I am clicking on that button, so what I am trying to say is, as soon as my list of restaurant changes, it will automatically refresh our component. It will automatically refresh our component. And this is, my dear friends, known as render, right? So how do you call it in React words? So let me give you a formal definition which you will read in the documentation. It says, whenever a state variable updates, React re-renders the component. Note it down in your notebook. Whenever a state variable updates, React re-renders the component. Whenever a state variable changes, React re-renders this component. Recite it along with me. Whenever a state variable changes, React will re-render my component. What do you mean by re-render? I'll tell you. Okay. If I am clicking on this button, I am changing my state variable and the React is re-rendering my component. Basically, what it is doing is, React behind the scenes, what it is doing is, this body component, right? As soon as this list of restaurant updates from anywhere, whenever basically anywhere this set list of restaurant is called, React will remove this body and update it properly. It will quickly do that. It will very quickly update your UI, right? This is the power of React. This is the power of state variable. Let me just show it to you in Elements, right? In Elements, let me refresh the page. And when I will click on the button, just see what happens when I click on the button, okay? If I click on the button, where is the REST container? See, there are 3 REST cards. So whenever I'll click on it, just see what will happen inside this, right? Just see what will happen over here, right? So I am clicking on 1, 2, 3, click. Do you see this? It just updates. The React quickly updated my UI along with it. So remember this line very importantly. Whenever a state variable updates, React will re-render my component. Got it? This is the super powerful. That is why I call this as super powerful state variable, a local state variable of body. Got it? This is a very important concept. If you understand this, you will understand a lot of things in React, because we will be using this a lot of times, my dear friends. We will be using this a lot of times. Got it? So you have to understand this, right? This is the state variable. Let me revise it once again. What is a React hook? It's a normal JavaScript function which is a utility function. It gives you some utilities, right? So this use state gives you powerful state variables, right? Now you would see, okay, so now let me first of all, right, these was three, right? These were three variables. Let us now use our mock data over here, right? How will I use my mock data? Right? So by default, okay, I'll show you one thing, right? I'll show you one thing. Now, when you have understood the concept, now we can use mock data also, right? Now we can use mock data also. So initially, what should I pass, right? Where is my rest list? Let's import our rest list, right? Import our rest list. It was a named import? No, it was a normal import, right? Rest list from, where is my rest list? Exported from mock data, right? So it was //utils/mock data, right? It was mock data. Got it? So we have this rest list with us. Now what I will do is, in my list of restaurant, by default I will pass my rest list. What will it do? It will render all my 15 restaurants, right? It will render all my 15 restaurants. And let me show you a magic. Whenever I will do a on click of this button, it will filter out all the top rated restaurants. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful how fast this works. And how much less code I have to write to build this. How much less code. Do you see the superpower of React now? Do you see the power of using React? If you have to do the same thing inside JavaScript, right? You have to write tons of code and it will have tons of errors and it will be very tough to execute. React has made this super easy. React will keep your UI in sync with the data layer. In the data layer, when you have a local state variable, as soon as your data layer updates, your UI layer will update. As soon as your data layer will update, your UI layer will update. How will it update? By re-rendering, right? As soon as my data changes, my React component re-renders. What is happening behind the scenes? Let me tell you. As soon as my state variable updates, React will re-render my component. This is the whole logic of React. And it does it very fast, in a very optimized way, and in very less code. This is the beauty of React. This is why React is the most popular library in this world for building UI applications. React is the most powerful application because of this. This is the core of React. When you say that why the large scale applications are, how do you build a large scale application? What makes it super fast? So React will make these DOM operations super fast. React will make this DOM operation super fast and efficient, right? So if you click on these top rated restaurant, this update, right? This update takes a lot of hit, right? It has to just, browser has to re-render that component, right? That logic of updating, right? That logic of updating this UI is known as re-rendering, and this is where React is best. This is the superpower of React, right? A lot of developers, when I take interviews, right, they say, why is your web app fast, or why is your web app optimized? They say we are using React, right? React is minifying our code. React is bundling chunk. No, React does not do anything. React is only good at DOM operations. This DOM manipulation. This is the core logic of React is. Right? Let me tell you one more thing, right? How React is doing this actually, right? Amazing thing, right? You would have been amazed by an amazing thing, right? So if I refresh my page, let me show it to you once again. What is React doing, right? As soon as I changed my state variable, right? Let me click on this. As soon as I changed my state variable, React automatically refreshed that component. Very fast, like automatically it happened, right? It keeps your data layer in sync with the UI layer. How it is doing that? Now let me explain to you. Now let me explain to you what is virtual DOM. Now let me explain to you what is reconciliation. Now let me explain to you what is React fiber. Now let me explain to you the superpowers of React. You have enough knowledge to grasp that now. You have enough knowledge to grasp that now. Right? I'll tell you the what is diff algorithm now. Now you have sufficient knowledge to do that, right? So let me get my notebook pen ready. You also take down your notebook pen ready. It is very, very, very important now, right? Now, whenever we have React, right? So we have something known as, let me tell you what is React algorithm, how React works behind the scenes, okay? So React uses something known as reconciliation, right? Reconciliation algorithm, right? Reconciliation algorithm, right? So React uses reconciliation algorithm. And this reconciliation algorithm is also known as React fiber. Okay, is also known as, there is something known as React fiber. Okay, let me tell you, right? React fiber. Note it down in your notebook. Okay, this is really very important thing. A little theory, but I'll tell you how React works behind the scenes. Okay, I'll tell you now. What it does is, okay, this is the reconciliation. How it does, I'll tell you, right? On the UI, suppose we have a DOM, right? We have DOM. DOM is like a tree, right? The tags are like a tree. We have our, suppose this is the REST container, right? This is the REST container. Okay, this is the REST container, and this REST container has 15 restaurant card, right? It has 15 restaurant card. Suppose there are 15 resto card over here, right? Suppose we have 15 resto card. Okay, so now what will happen is, now suppose there are how many cards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there are 7 restaurant cards. Okay, now suppose my UI changes to filtering these 7 cards to 3 cards. Okay, now my UI changes from filtering these 7 cards to only 3 filtered cards. Okay, 3 filtered cards. Okay, now suppose my UI changes. What React do and why React is fast, now I will tell you, right? First of all, whenever you have this UI, right? Whenever you have this UI, React creates a virtual DOM of it. What is virtual DOM? I'll tell you what is virtual DOM, okay? Many React developers don't understand whatever I am telling you. This is very deep knowledge. Very deep knowledge. It might be a little deep that you can't understand, but read more about it. See my video once again and try to understand what I'm telling you. Please focus, okay? What is virtual DOM? Virtual DOM is not an actual DOM. See, what is actual DOM? What is actual DOM, right? Actual DOM are the tags, right? This is the actual DOM, right? Suppose we have a div inside a div, you have this image and all that stuff. This is actual DOM. Virtual DOM is representation of an actual DOM. Representation of actual DOM. Sorry for my bad handwriting, right? Sorry for my bad handwriting. Let me rub this and write it once again in a proper handwriting, right? Is a representation of actual DOM. Actual DOM, right? This is actual DOM, my dear friends. This is actual DOM. Actual DOM. Got it? What is virtual DOM? Virtual DOM is a representation of an actual DOM. What do you mean by a representation of an actual DOM? Virtual DOM is basically that object. Did you see that object? Let me show it to you what is virtual DOM. Okay, let me show it to you. You already know what is virtual DOM. Okay, so virtual DOM is basically those React elements, right? What is this body, right? let me just, okay, I'll show it to you what is virtual, what is actual DOM, right? Let me do a console.log of body over here, right? This body component. This is virtual DOM, that which will be printed, right? And what it will print? Can you tell what it will print? It will print an object, right? Remember the React element? That React element which I showed you in the first place? That React.create element that we create? Right? We used to create that, right? Remember that React.create element? Right? Create element, and we used to pass in 3 parameters over here, like an h1 tag, and then we pass in some attributes over here, and then we had all that stuff, right? And this used to return what? A React element used to be returned, right? This used to basically create your React element, right? React element. So this React element is what? Is an object. So similarly, when you have a big structure, it is all an object. So basically this object, right? This body, right? What is this body? Body is this, right? This is the body, right? How React treats this? How React treats this JSX? It creates an object out of it, right? This is object, right? If you will see this, right? This is an object, right? So this object is basically a React virtual DOM, right? It keeps the React virtual DOM with it. Got it? So this React virtual DOM basically is kind of nothing but a normal JavaScript object. Now, this is the virtual DOM, right? So virtual DOM, okay, to make it easy, you can also assume this object, right, is a nested object, Suppose we have a div, so this virtual DOM will have a div and it will have a div inside it. So this virtual DOM is not an actual DOM, but a representation of actual DOM. Suppose if we have a div and we have another div inside it, so this is virtual DOM. It's not an actual DOM. Now, what is the diff algorithm? I'll tell you what is the diff algorithm. So see, I am not writing an object, right? But let me tell you what is diff algorithm. Diff algorithm basically finds out the difference between two virtual DOMs, right? Virtual DOM, the updated virtual DOM and the previous virtual DOM. It finds out the difference between the updated virtual DOM and the previous virtual DOM, right? Suppose, I'll tell you what, right? The diff algorithm means, suppose, let me just remove this. I'll show you the example, right? Suppose if I have a restaurant container, right? This restaurant container had 7 restaurant cards, okay? 7 restaurant cards, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 restaurant cards. Now 7 restaurant cards, right? So the diff algorithm will find out the difference between, and now I clicked the button, right? I clicked the button on the UI, right? I clicked the button. Now the new, this is old virtual DOM. This is old virtual DOM. This is new virtual DOM. New virtual DOM, right? So this virtual DOM is now updated to 3 UI elements, right? So it basically tries to find out the difference. It basically tries to find out the difference between old virtual DOM and the new virtual DOM. What will be the difference? Of 4 nodes. And what it will do is, it will then calculate the difference and it will then actually update the DOM. On every render cycle. Got it? So basically, okay, so let me revise it once again. Okay. This whole algorithm is known as React Fiber. Okay. This React Fiber is a new algorithm which has come up in 2016. Okay. In React 16, not 2016. In React 16, this new algorithm has come up, right? Which is known as, let me write it down, okay? Let me write it down for you. So in React 16, a new algorithm to update the DOM came out. That algorithm is known as, see, this is known as reconciliation. Whenever something changes on the UI, this is known as reconciliation. Now, this new algorithm came in React 16. Right now we are learning React 18, right? After React 16, this algorithm is known as React Fiber. Okay, there's something known as React Fiber which comes in. This React Fiber is a new way of finding the diff and updating the DOM. Is a new way of finding the diff and updating the DOM. Suppose if I have 7 res card and I clicked on the button, right? I clicked on the button. So what happened is it just basically finds out the difference between virtual DOM. See, assume that this is the virtual DOM, right? So ultimately virtual DOM is just an object, right? I am just showing it to you in this fashion because it is easier to understand, right? Assume that what diff algorithm will do, it will find out the difference between, it is like a git diff. It is like a git diff between one object, old object, and a new object. Once it finds out the difference between these objects, then it will update the actual DOM. And that's how React becomes faster. How? I'll tell you an important concept. So if you have these DOM nodes, right? Suppose if you have that HTML. So find out the difference, finding out the difference between two HTML code is tough. Finding out the difference between two objects is fast. JavaScript is fast, right? JavaScript is fast. So it finds out the difference between two objects, right? So whatever you see in the UI, right? Whatever you see in the UI over here, React keeps a track of all this UI, all this DOM nodes, right? All this HTML as a virtual DOM. What is a virtual DOM? Is kind of like an object representation, right? Of this whole DOM, of this. So it will have a object over here, right? That will represent this HTML. It's a virtual DOM, right? And then suppose if I clicked on this button, as soon as I clicked on this button, now a new object is formed, right? A new object is formed. And React find out the difference between these two objects, right? It find out that earlier there were 15 restaurants, now there are 7 restaurants. When it finds out the difference between these objects, then it actually updates the DOM. Okay, it does not find out the difference between HTML and it does not touch HTML a lot. React does not touch the DOM a lot. That is why React is fast. That is why everything is fast in React. See this. So this is the diff algorithm. Hope you would have understood it. Whenever there is a change in any state variable, right? Whenever there is a change in any state variable, React will find out the difference between virtual DOM and it will re-render our component. It will update the DOM. Got it? So I have told you a lot of core concepts of React today. Go ahead, read it out. How will you read it out? React about reconciliation, React Fiber, okay? React Fiber. Let's find out React Fiber. If you search for React Fiber, right? Go to this link, okay? Don't go to all these links, right? Don't go to Geeks for Geeks, right? Don't, right? Go to this GitHub link. Note it down, ACDLIT, right? This is the username. Go this. This is the React Fiber architecture. You would ask me, Akshay, how do you know all that? Because I read a lot of things. I am curious about things. I used to find out what is virtual DOM, what is React Fiber, what is React Fiber. So React Fiber is an ongoing implementation of React's core algorithm. This is the React core algorithm. React Fiber, the React that you install, right? npm install React, right? That you see React. This is the React core algorithm to find out the difference between these virtual DOMs and update the UI. This is what React is best at. This is why React is the most popular UI library right now in the market. Got it? So React Fiber is an ongoing implementation. It started in 2000, I don't know what, 2016, 18, whatever, but React 16, whenever React 16 came in, this was done. There is something known as incremental rendering. Please read it up, right? The incremental rendering means the ability to split the rendering work into different chunks over multiple frames. So it basically is a new way, is a performant, is an efficient way of manipulating DOM. If somebody asks you why React is fast, you will not have answers to it. Why? Because you don't know. Because React is doing efficient DOM manipulation. This is how you have to answer in the interview. React is doing efficient DOM manipulation. How? Because it has a virtual DOM. So if it has a virtual DOM, then what? And let me tell you, virtual DOM has become a popular concept after React has came in. Virtual DOM as a concept existed long back. Virtual DOM is not a React thing. What is virtual DOM? Virtual DOM is basically the DOM that you see, right? Those tags and elements that you see. It's kind of like a JavaScript representation of it, right? That HTML code object representation of it, right? That is virtual DOM. That concept existed from a long time in software engineering. React took that and built its code algorithm over that virtual DOM. Got it? Important stuff I am telling you. Keep noting it down, right? So React can efficiently find out the difference between virtual DOMs and update the UI. This is the core of React's algorithm. If I have to tell it in two lines, this is what it is. If the interviewer asks you why React is fast, because it has virtual DOM. It has a diff algorithm which is very efficient. It can do efficient DOM manipulation. It can find out that diff and update the UI. This is the core of React, right? Go ahead, read this out. Read about reconciliation. It is the high level description of React's reconciliation algorithm. Reconciliation means, right? Read it out, right? It's very tough to explain it in easy words, right? You have to read things out. Read this out. Please. I can't tell you like everything, right? I'll have to make a Namaste React fiber for it, right? How it works. I want my students to be so good that you go and contribute to React's, right? Go and contribute to React project. If you'll go to Facebook, go work in React's core team. You have to work on React core team, then you should understand what is going on behind the scenes. First of all, the logic, then the code. This finding out diff and updating the UI is the best part of React. This is what the whole core React algorithm is built upon, right? That rendering, re-rendering. Do you see this now? Do you appreciate React now? So when you did this, right? So there are 15 things, right? 15 cards over here. If I clicked on it, it automatically find out the difference between two virtual DOM and it updated the UI quickly. And this happens every time my state variable changes, right? Where is my body? Every time this state variable changes, React is keeping an eye on the state variable. React tracks this list of restaurant. React is constantly monitoring this list of restaurant. And why is it able to do that? Because this is a special variable we created using useState. We used useState to create this list of restaurant. Now, this list of restaurant, React is constantly checking this, right? As soon as it updates, React will find out the diff, update the UI. Find out the diff, it will render the UI once again. It will basically flush out and render what is required, right? And the major thing is, see, there is a top rated restaurant, right? There's a top rated restaurant. React can do this update very efficiently. This is the core job of React, and this is why React is popular. That's all is React. In this half an hour of discussion of everything, I have covered like almost all the theory basic concepts of React. This is what it is. This is what we will do in all this Namaste React. We will just write code and everything automatically worked, right? So list of restaurant, React is keeping an eye on it. As soon as you change it, as soon as I click on this button, it updates, right? Basically, as soon as this set list of restaurant is called, React starts its reconciliation algorithm. React starts re-rendering your page. Okay, now you understood why you have another set list of restaurant over here. Now you understood that. Because as soon as you call this set list of restaurant, React will find out the diff, update the UI. This is the core of React. This is the super amazing knowledge which I want to give you. Lot of people don't know this. I am telling you, 99.99% of the React developers who work in the industry don't know about this. 99.99%. I have hardly seen anybody trying to find out what is the core concept of React. But I want all the students of Namaste React to be very good at this. Go ahead in an interview. Challenge your interviewers. I know about the React, how React is working behind the scenes, how state variables are working. People use this a lot, right? You can write state variables a lot in your code. You will see that all across. But they don't know how these state variables works behind the scenes. They don't know why are there two things, right? Why can't we just modify it directly? Because there needs to be a trigger to start the diff algorithm and update the UI. That is why they created this second function. Whenever you call this second function, it will automatically re-render your component. This is React's algorithm. Right? A lot of people don't even know that we can write it in a different way. What is this? This is array destructuring. Array destructuring. You know, basic things a lot of people don't know. I'll tell you. This is array destructuring. You know what it is? This use state returns. What does use state return? Use state returns an array. A lot of people will be confused, right? I'll tell you what it is. So if you have a constant ARR, so it is basically like doing this. This, right? Just like that meme, right? This. It is same. Lot of people think that this won't work. This will work, my dear friends. This will work. This will work. They just write this syntax, but they don't ever know what we are doing. This is array destructuring. And let me break it down a lot more. It is basically like doing constant list of restaurant is equals to ARR of 0. And AR set list of restaurant is they just copy paste, right? That's why they don't know. This is what it is doing behind the scenes, right? This line, right? This use state line is giving you an array, and this arrays of 0 is list of restaurant, and array of 1 is set list of restaurant. And we are just destructuring it on the fly. It works. Lot of people won't know this. Lot of people don't know the basic concepts of React. Basic concept. These are basic things. This is JavaScript, not even React. This is JavaScript. Right? So what I wanted to say is, be curious about every small thing. That why are we writing this? It is a weird syntax, right? To have an array and like this. Question yourself every small thing. Try to find out the logic. So this is what I wanted to show you in this episode number 5. Let's wrap this up. This was episode 5. Let's get hooked. Today we studied about hooks. We saw that hooks are nothing but normal JavaScript utility function. We saw our first hook. The hook is useState, the utility function. It gives us access to super powerful state variables inside React. Why are they super powerful state variables? Because React is keeping an eye on it. React is keeping a track on it. Right? And whenever these variables update, React will trigger its diff algorithm. It will find out the difference between virtual DOMs, and it will automagically updates the UI. It keeps the UI layer and the data layer in sync, and that is what the core algorithm of React is. Thank you so much, people, for watching this, being patient to watch this long video. Thank you so much. This was episode 5. Signing off right now, and I will post this code to GitHub. Please go ahead, check it out. Please read a lot about, don't move to the new video before you read about a little bit about reconciliation, React Fiber, and all this virtual DOM. Got it? See you in the next episode. Bye-bye. All the best. Wish you the best.